Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think we're there. I think we are there. Guess what I have today? I have a straw. Yeah, I got a straw today. How about that? Been a long time since I've had a straw. Very useful tool, for drinking. Hmm. Okay. That's right. I want you to know that I am drinking coffee from a straw, not juice. But if you think about it, coffee is just the juice of a dried, roasted cherry of sorts. So why not? Yeah. Well, if I'm talking already. Hey there, hi there, Hyde here. Normal Hyde for a change. It's not a change. That's usually what it is, right? Good to see you, Aurora. Nice to see you, yes. Anyone else in chat? Maybe? I don't know. We're gonna get started here. Gonna get right into it. I was really struggling to come up with topics for the day. I think right off the bat, I'm probably going to, for the next stream, maybe adjust this, well, the way everything looks. Well, maybe the next stream will be Brother Id if I ever get off of my, you know, lazy behind and actually write that sermon. Kind of doubt it. I do have the rough draft for it. Listening to Comfy Hyde streams while pleading? Oh, alright. Sure. I thought at first you were misspelling plating, but I guess not. You really are pleating dumplings, right? Isn't there supposed to be a certain number of folds? Like, I'm pretty sure there has to be some weird number of folds. And I don't mean, like, culturally weird, I just mean that there is weird, it's weird that there has to be a number of folds at all, right? But there is a significance to the number of folds, right? Yeah. And, oh, ouch. I could never do it, right? Like, I would always run out of, dumpling wrapping before I would get the right number of folds. And they were never pretty, right? The pleats. I'm not playing too well tonight. I have historically struggled with dumplings. Maybe we can get the 4 there. No, that's a 5. We really just need to touch the side of this. Nope, could not get it. I have historically struggled with dumplings of all kinds, both in the number of pleats that you need, and also in the filling itself, right? Like, the filling itself is pretty tough to get right. You need to get the right texture, and the right texture often relies on... That's gonna be a tough shot. On having cold enough hands, right? Because if your hands aren't cold enough, then you're gonna have problems with the fat melting. And sometimes you want that. Like, you don't want that ever in a sausage. So you don't ever want to overdo it. You don't count your folds. Well, that's probably better for your mental health, right? If you're not worrying about the exact number of folds in your dumpling. I could actually relate to that. I tried, right? I did try at one point to actually count the number of folds, make sure that I got enough of them. It just didn't work out that way, you know? It never does. It's okay though, right? They all eat the same, as long as they seal up properly. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed that straw sound. So I was struggling with topics today. Right before stream, I had an epiphany, and I decided on one of the topics. What? Why the sad face? There's no reason for sad face. Or is that more of a distressed face? I really ought to know, being the old man with emoticons, right? Yeah, we knew emoticons beforehand. Oh, you're hearing it now? Wait, what? How are you hearing it now? Weird. I am on low latency, so you should be hearing it before I even talk about it. Like, that's how streaming works, right? You should have heard the straw sounds beforehand. There shouldn't be a lag, and if there is a lag, it shouldn't be, like, only affecting the straw sounds. Very strange. But okay. So I had an epiphany before stream, and I figured out one of the topics I actually want to talk about. And it's been on my mind quite a bit lately. Breakfast. I want to talk about breakfast for a little bit. And I know what you're thinking, that there's really not that much that can be said about breakfast. Well, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. There's a lot you can say about breakfast, you know? Yeah. First of all, how do you define breakfast? Oh, okay. I see. Uh-huh. How do you define breakfast? It's a toughie, isn't it? Like, most people... Well, the way I see it, that there are several ways you could define breakfast, right? The first is probably very common. Time of day. Breakfast is a meal that you have in the morning. Yeah. Now, the morning is defined somewhere by someone as a certain period of hours between such and such AM and such AM. I will not quibble over the details. If you want to call morning from midnight to, I don't know, noon, sure, why not? I don't really think that's accurate, but if you want to do it, I will not argue over it. It doesn't really matter. The point is that there is a time... Oh, that was a very nice shot. I wasn't even trying to do that. There's a certain time in the day. Yes. There's a certain period of time in the day where you can call your meal breakfast. A lot of people probably think about that when they think breakfast. Breakfast time, right? It's like tea time, or, you know, lunch is a certain time. I don't know. It's one of those things, I guess. I don't really like that definition of breakfast, though, and let me tell you why. I have historically worked night shifts. Yeah, I have historically worked night shifts from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So I don't really have a breakfast there, do I? At least not a breakfast time. I don't work those hours anymore, but I used to. I used to work them a lot. And if I accepted that breakfast was any time after 6 a.m., then I could not possibly have a breakfast meal, could I? Not at all. So, the next definition of breakfast, this one makes a lot of sense to me, but I don't think it's quite right either. The substance, right, that you're eating, the food, the meal itself. Like, there are a lot of things marketed as breakfast foods. Things like breakfast cereals, oatmeal, pancakes, eggs and bacon. Yeah, all of those are breakfast foods, right? So that means that you're going to be eating them at or with breakfast. The problem with that is, I know a lot of people who eat breakfast foods at other times of the day. Like, just the other week, or maybe it was the start of this week, I had pancakes as my third meal of the day. Technically second, but let's not get into that. So it's not exactly one-to-one, is it? Right? Like, just because it's a breakfast food doesn't mean that it's only breakfast food. It's just commonly associated with breakfast. So I don't really like that either. The only thing that I can think of that would make more sense is it's a meal relating to a human waking time, right? There has to be a human waking up and eating that meal. This is a tough shot too. maybe... No, I really think we're gonna have to struggle with this one. So, that gets rid of the problem of substance of meals. That gets rid of the problem of time of day, right? So if I wake up at 6 p.m. and I have a meal within, say, a couple hours, I think that would count as a breakfast, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, except it makes it not universal, right? There is no breakfast time. It's just the first meal of your day. And I still see problems with that. Like, you might think I am picking over the finer details of this issue. And you're right, I am. I am making it more complicated than it needs to be. But I really care about breakfast, you know? So, one of the problems is, I know a lot of elderly people. I am one of them, to be fair. And I know elderly people take a lot of medications. Some of those medications require you to eat a food with them, right? Otherwise, they upset the stomach. And if they upset the stomach, well, the elderly, they have problems with that too. It's especially bad in the elderly, right? Because they can end up dehydrating themselves. That was a bad shot. Do you not like the straw sounds? I brought back the straw sounds specifically because I was asked to bring back the straw sounds. But if you're not enjoying them, I can get rid of them. After tonight. You're stuck with them now. At least for the duration of this stream. Hey Slushy, nice to see you. I'm doing just fine. We're talking about breakfast. Good to see you around. I don't think it's, it has definitely been a while. And I don't blame you for not being able to join me. Like I always say, I stream in weird hours. I do. Especially for my, well, nationality, as it were. So I can understand, it's very difficult to catch me. Especially when I only stream once per week. And, again, with the weird hours, I find it very hard to catch other people in, say, normal EST times. Yeah, but good to see you. I'm doing fine. I hope you're doing well as well. Back to breakfast. I really think we can't call the first thing you eat breakfast. Hi, Paul. And Lloyd. Hello. We have a party in chat tonight. Don't get rid of the straw sounds. You like them? I can keep them. Sure. That's fine. If you have to lurk, or if you have to leave, that's perfectly fine. There's no reason you have to watch this stream live, right? Like, I get it. You don't even have to watch it all. I always appreciate your presence, but you don't really have to be here. Especially if you have to sleep soon. And now... you're welcome, Lloyd. I'm sorry it scared you. That's just a tradition here on this channel. I unfortunately could not find juice boxes on sale, so I had to make my own, with a water bottle and coffee. It's adult juice boxes. Perfect. I'm glad you enjoy it. But the elderly, right? Like, this is a serious issue. They have really easy to upset stomachs, and a lot of their medications unfortunately have side effects of upsetting their stomachs, so they have to eat it with a food. So it kind of coats the stomach a little bit. Makes the acids not eat through their own stomach lining. Coffee cups are already adult sippy cups. You know, I'd have to think about that. You're not wrong. They don't have the spout, but you do kind of sip out of them, don't you? Oh, that's not great. You're really not wrong, though. I hadn't actually thought about that, but it makes sense that you would figure that one out, being a slushie and all, right? I would say slushies are probably closer to being adult sippy cups than a coffee mug would be. Well, not a mug, You mean those Starbucks cups, right? I really don't like Starbucks, but I have been known to drink one from time to time. You know the big problem with Starbucks? They always overcook their beans, right? They over-roast them. It has nothing to do with the baristas, right? Well, okay, you can get a bad barista and end up with really bad coffee, but I don't think that's really what's happening here. What's really happening is they overcook their roasts. They have dark roast coffees. Now, if you don't know, coffees come in multiple kinds of roast, right? Everything from blonde to extra dark. Blonde being minimally roasted. You get a lot more flavor from a blonde roast. It's more mild, but it's also higher in acid, so you do have to be careful of that. What it is lower in is bitterness. And bitterness is the enemy. Unless your coffee is mostly sugar. In which case, the bitterness actually complements the sugars, so you end up with something palatable. How did I get here? You ever wonder that in life? How did you get here? I was talking about breakfast. So the elderly have pills they have to take with their meals. Now, the first meal of their day could technically be the first thing they eat, right? But what if you have to take something small with your pill, and then you have a breakfast planned for later? Would it still be breakfast? Whatever you ate with the pill, it's the first meal after you woke up. I think it counts, if we go by that definition. But if you have another breakfast planned, is that second breakfast? Do you have 4 meals that day? I don't know. That's why I don't like that definition either. Ideally, I think you would have to combine all of the different aspects of breakfast to come up with something workable, right? It's a pragmatic model, as opposed to an objective one. So you would incorporate time of day. So morning, first meal of the day, works for breakfast. Unless you're night shift, in which case, waking becomes the shifted focus there. Yeah. Now, personally, I think one of the better things about breakfast is the variety of foods that are associated with breakfast. I know a lot of people who will only eat sweet things for breakfast. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Breakfast should be something substantial, calorically, but it should also be something easily digestible. And there's nothing more easily digestible than simple sugars, right? I think things like cereal and oatmeal porridge are good examples. They have some complex carbohydrates in the form of the grains, but they're typically processed and they're typically high in sugars. I think that's probably very common for breakfast foods. And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum. Things like savory foods, eggs and bacon, breakfast sausage. There's one I can't really talk about without doxing myself, so I will not. But I will say it's savory and sweet. Yeah. Think McGriddle. Do you remember the McGriddle? I don't even know if they still sell McGriddles. I hope they don't. McGriddles are terrible. McDonald's, please do not sponsor me. Ever. If you still make McGriddles. If you get rid of the McGriddle, I would consider it. I already have a clown preset. I'd be perfect for it. Unfortunately, I do not have that on this model. Yeah. Replace it with id. Unfortunate. Personally, I don't really mind either, savory or sweet. It depends on the day, but it has to be something that's simple to digest. Being the first meal of the day, you really want it to be not sitting in your stomach for too long. It's interesting, right? Like, I once read a study. McMuffins are much better compared to McGriddles. I have to agree with you. Not the Canadian ham ones, or yeah. I'm not gonna call it bacon. It's Canadian ham. I don't get that. Why do they have to? Why do they have to steal bacon and make it an inferior product? Yes. Whenever I had to get breakfast, I'll tell you what the best food item for breakfast at McDonald's is, other than their coffee, which ranks amongst the best coffees in any fast food, I have to say their hash browns are fantastic. I don't know what it is about their hash browns. I think they deep fry them. I've never worked at a McDonald's. Fun fact. We didn't really have one where I was growing up. The nearest one was over 2 hours away by car. So, yeah, didn't really get a chance to work at one. But I really, really do think that they deep fry their hash browns, and it makes them extra delicious. Yeah. No idea what McGriddles are. McGriddles, yeah, it's probably an American item. Yeah. I know there are different items at different McDonald's all around the world, but I couldn't tell you what you have there. Fun fact, I had to put 2 straws together here to make it long enough to fit to the bottom of my coffee container. It's not ideal, really. Have you ever done that? When you're like making something for a science class and you need to make a model using drinking straws? Yeah, something like that. Only that there's a little gap when you put them together. Perfect. See that? We got some extra balls. You ever put them together and you get that little gap, right? Because you have to fold the first straw in on itself a little bit to make a U shape before it will insert cleanly into the other straw. No, surprisingly it doesn't, Lloyd. You can do it. You just have to make a fold in, like, press firmly into one part of the plastic straw, like the top, and you'll make a U shape out of what is a circle, right? The opening. And then you fold that up into the straw of the other straw, right? At the bottom. And it should unfold itself. There's enough give in the plastic that it's flexible enough to do that. I know, because I've done it just now. It does, however, make a mess if you do not do it cleanly. So, oh, bad shot. It can make a mess if you are not careful. You just have to be careful, you know? If you have a lot of air, it will not work as a straw. It will half suction up, and then you will have a mess, as you say, yes. Back when my big gulp straw went missing? Yeah, what is it with big gulp straws? Like, they make them bigger than the standard straw. I have to imagine, I don't just mean, like, longer. I also mean, like, bigger diameter. Like, why are you drinking that much soda that quickly? Is it some kind of marketing ploy where if they get you to drink more of the soda, you'll buy more of it? I don't think that's how it works in reality. I think it just makes you need to use the convenience store restroom more often, right? Yeah. Or if you go for movie theaters, right? Yeah, movie theaters have really big straws. I understand that movie theaters put more salt on their products, their popcorn, and sometimes they serve pretzels. Okay, I don't know if that's a regional thing. It might be a regional thing. But if it isn't, I do know that they put extra salt on their foods. And that's to get you to buy a larger drink, because you'll need more of a drink to wash that salt away. But I think there might be something to the straw as well. The larger the straw, diameter-wise, the more liquid you can intake at once. The more quickly as well. It's an efficiency thing, right? Probably. I don't know physics. Don't ask me about physics, that's more of a Jekyll thing. Jekyll's not here right now. But the more liquid you can get, more quickly, more consistently, which means you're going to be taking bigger gulps, as the name suggests. And when that happens, you're going to run out more quickly as well. Which means I guess you do have to buy more if you really want more of a drink. Personally, I never get drinks at movie theaters. Not that I go to too many movie theaters these days. The last time I went to a movie theater was probably in high school. Yeah. I don't know when it came out. but I went to see Zombieland. Probably the second time I went to see Zombieland. Yeah. The first time I went to see Zombieland, I dressed up as a zombie with the zombie makeup on, really disheveled hair. I went all out. I even had liquid latex wounds with fake blood. Here's a fun tip. If you ever want to make fake blood, I suggest doing solids first, using a mix of gelatin, coffee creamer, and red dye. The coffee creamer gives it a wonderful opacity and also turns the red more brownish. Yeah. And then you layer that on after the latex. Like, you want to create a latex wound, right? So you gotta tear the latex after you layer it on yourself. That'll give it 3 dimensions. Zombie Hyde? Sounds really interesting. It's not the only time I ever dressed up as a zombie. It's the only time I went in public dressed as a zombie, though. I don't really think it counts as cosplay, but that might be the closest it comes. I got a lot of strange looks that night, because it wasn't Halloween or anything. I was just going to a zombie movie, showing... I think it was in summer, even. I'd have to look at the dates. It might have been spring, but it was definitely way after Halloween, and I was the only one that actually showed up dressed as a zombie. Yeah. Like, that's not a very common thing. I remember when when Lord of the Rings came out, Return of the King, my brothers dressed up as orcs to go to the viewing. I was too young to go. Kind of. More like I didn't really want to go. But yeah, they dressed up as orcs, and I'm sure they got a lot of strange looks as well, because their cosplay was made of cardboard boxes. Yeah, that was their armor. Use coffee and red dye for my fake blood? Coffee's a great shout. Coffee's also nice and brown. Gives a nice opaque look. I assume you mean instant coffee, right? Yeah. Corn syrup, yes, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely corn syrup. That stuff is sticky, though. I would not suggest wearing that for too long. Like, I hate how sticky it is. That's why I always use glycerin and gelatin in a mix, so it's not so sticky. Too young, I see. Fake old man. I've outed myself, haven't I? I'm still pretty old, right? I'm still old enough. Like, I was old enough to view the movie. It wasn't a matter of ratings, it's just a matter of I didn't want to be out on a school night like that. But yeah. Zombie makeup, fantastic, variety, right? I was always inspired with my makeup to go for the Tom Savini looks. Tom Savini, if you don't know, did pretty much all of the makeup for the Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, and I think Dawn of the Dead? Might have been. There was one of them that I think he couldn't work on. I know he was on Dawn. I can't tell you why, but I know he worked on Dawn of the Dead. And he's famous for the raccoon-eyed zombie look. I don't know if you know about zombie looks in movies. But those really dark circles, that's what he did. That was some of his pioneering work. Like, he did all of the special effects, though. So all the wounded zombies, he did those. It wasn't just the raccoon eyes. That was just his solution for mass shoots with extras. Like, if you think about it, you're not going to spend all that time with every zombie putting on their makeup. No, it's not practical, it's not efficient, and it's not cost effective. Like, practical effects cost money, and it costs time. And if you have 600 participants, like 600 extras in a scene, you just can't afford it. Not the time, not the effort. So, if you have people in the back, you just give them less good makeup. That's all there is to it. And the crowd will fill in, and the eye will naturally be drawn to the more messed up looking zombies in front. But I really like that dark circle look, and that's what I always preferred to do. There are other looks for zombies, right? Like the Rage Infected from 28 Days Later. they look more sickly if you take a close look at them. Yeah, they have the eye thing going on, they're more bloodshot, you see more veins. There's more purple hues, too. I actually do. I'm really bad at those tonight. I do own, a death wheel. Here's a fun fact. The palest color in my death wheel actually makes for perfect concealer for me, right? My skin is naturally that pale. Yeah. So I look deathly all the time. That might contribute to why I like the, raccoon-eyed zombie look from Tom Savini. Because I naturally look like that already. The dark circles are very much inspired by personal appearance. Like this model, yeah, it's pretty similar in a way. But I think that's enough about zombies. What was I talking about? Breakfasts? Kaiki. Hmm. You know? Kaiki? Kaiki? Yeah, Kaiki. That's a Monogatari reference, right? Yeah. There was an episode where he was dressed in a Hawaiian shirt, and I have to say, that really fits my fashion sense. Yeah. Being an old man, I dress like an old man. Preferably a retired old man, right? Like, I was always told as a kid, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And, as a kid, I just never knew what kind of job I wanted to do. I still don't. That's less true these days. But I always thought, wouldn't it be great if my job were just being retired? So, that's pretty much how I dress, like a retired old man. I will say, however, that I do not like wearing shorts. Or sandals, right? Like, sandals do not do it for me. There's not enough support on the ankle with the sandal, right? Even the strapped ones with the strap back, no, there's not enough support. Sweet job? Yeah, it is kind of a sweet job if you're retired, isn't it? Like, think about it. You get to do nothing all day, every... oh. Everything kind of feels the same all day. There's no reason to think that any one day is any other day. You get to mow your lawn if you have a lawn. You probably have a house and a mortgage. Yeah. Probably putting children through college or something. Good times being retired. Wait a second. Now that I think about it, being retired sounds kinda awful. That's a realization that I had later in life, right? Being retired does not look like it's all that it's cracked up to be. I thought it would be great as a kid, because I thought I would have free time to do whatever I wanted. But then I realized there's that dull ache in my head that tells me to do things. And if I'm not doing things, it hurts, right? It doesn't hurt like pain, but it aches. It's like a pulsing in your head, right? Like your hands have to be moving. If your hands aren't moving, then you're doing something wrong. I think it's your survival instincts, your self-preservation instincts. They're working in overdrive, trying to get you to do something for your own survival. That's just my personal thoughts on the matter. I'm not a evolutionary psychologist here or anything, so do take it with a grain of salt. Remember, Dr. Jekyll is the doctor. I don't even play one on TV. Wearing a suit... Oh. A suit being the opposite of a retired outfit. I don't know about that. Like, I know a lot of old people who, they were raised in a different time. And one of the things they always tell me, or told me, depending, is that you have to dress well to go out in public, right? Like, these are the kind of people who would go to the store wearing a suit, and that's it. Like, they would have to go to the store wearing a suit. They would not wear anything less than a buttoned-up shirt, at the very least, right? Some people are like that. Especially amongst the older generations, right? That is my experience, at least. We're gonna go up a little bit higher on this one. Because the last... gonna get that one of these days. But, yeah. They felt like you had to dress up to go into town, is essentially what it is. It seems so simple, but where I was raised, there were plenty of people still alive who would only go to the store or go into town, say, once every month or so. Sounds ideal to me, but I can understand why that would be a problem for some people. So when they went into town at all, they would have to dress up, right? Because they wanted to be presentable. They wanted to show themselves at their finest, and it was kind of puritanical in a way. Yeah, I think it stems back to being presentable. Like, no offense, but your straw sound effect sounds like a gross grandma smooch. Is that so? You know, it's funny you say that. Like, I do come from an Italian family, partially. And, yeah, it does kind of sound like a gross grandma smooch. And I have a lot of experience to say that. I don't know what it is, right? With gross grandma smooches? Like, I think it has to be the amount of saliva in their mouth that just makes it more gross sounding. Like there's more liquid in it. It's not like, one of your standard kiss on the cheeks kind of thing. There's more moisture there. I don't... maybe it's like the lack of teeth. Like, my grandma lost her teeth later on in life and had to wear dentures. And maybe that prevented some of it. Like the teeth would act as some kind of blockage for saliva, right? But when you don't have teeth... What? Don't give me that face, you're the one who started this. Like, when you don't have teeth, all of the saliva that would be caught by your teeth has to go somewhere. And I imagine it goes straight to your lips, right? When you get older? I think that's probably what happens.
Game over.
Yeah. I don't know why you're giving me that look, you know? You're the one who brought up the topic. Oh, I made you feel bad? Oh, I see how it is. You're trying to guilt me into feeling bad about you making... No, that's not how it works. Yeah. Okay. So, I think that was the topic of breakfast, right? Gross grandma smooches and breakfast. Rather, no, that was not breakfast. I didn't even get to talk about southern breakfast versus northern breakfast or anything like that. Like, I do want to talk about breakfast a little bit more. You're not going to derail me from this. I am going to talk about breakfast. So, I've lived all over the US. Continental. We will say continental. Which is strange, right? Like, I always hear about continental breakfast, but I don't quite know if that's related to, continents, or if that's, like, related to a hotel chain, or if that's related to, you know, even this continent, if it is related to continents, right? Like, it seems like an evolution of the full English breakfast. What is it? I don't know. Southern breakfasts are good. Absolutely. You know my favorite southern breakfast? It's gotta be sausage gravy over biscuits. And, it really depends on how you make your biscuits, right? Like, the sausage gravy can be horrible slop, made of any sausage in a white gravy. It doesn't matter. It all tastes the same. White slop. But, the biscuits, they have to be dry and flaky, right? If you get those soggy biscuits, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Paul. You know what I'm talking about. Those soggy biscuits are the absolute worst, because they don't absorb the gravy, they just kind of have all that oil, and you get soggier biscuits. There's like mush in your mouth. I don't like that. It's a textural thing. Like, a lot of the food I can't eat is textural in nature. I'll tell you one of the worst offenders for that. overcooked eggplant. Like, have you ever had overcooked eggplant? When you cook the biscuits just... Oh, yeah. Just right. You gotta have dry, flaky biscuits. If you have soggy, gross biscuits, you already messed up. Start over. They're very hard to make properly, aren't they? Like, I've tried. I have tried to make biscuits. A lot of you probably know that I like baking. I bake a lot of things. But to get good biscuits, you really need to incorporate the butter very, very carefully. You can't get the butter melted, it has to be very cold. I even have a pastry blender for this, and I have never succeeded in making good biscuits. It's always, disappointing. Thankfully never had... Oh yeah, the eggplant thing. I hope none of you are eating. If you are, maybe mute the stream for about 20 seconds here. But overcooked eggplant, texturally and taste-wise, oh man, it just reminds me of, vomit, right? Like, it's just like vomit in the mouth. The texture is all mushy, like or like half-digested food. And it has that taste, that mineralic taste of sylvite. That's the potassium ions in your mouth. Sylvite is, for those of you who don't know, a salt. It has potassium instead of sodium. So table salt is sodium chloride, and sylvite is potassium chloride. And you can taste the difference. That's like one of the best ways to tell which is which, because they both have similar habits, crystalline habits. Cubic. Made at least 2 people in chat bake a certain cookie. Yeah, I'm glad that people... Like, I never thought that when I started this, I'd be able to have my recipe, a recipe that I made myself, go global, right? Like, I don't know where you people live, but, please don't tell me, don't dox yourselves. But I have to assume that some of you are not living, here, where I live, and yet you still made my cookies. It really... It's a surreal feeling, and it makes me very happy. You're eating fries? Oh, I'm sorry, Unbroken. I am sorry. I did tell you to mute yourself, or mute my stream, right? Yeah. I can't feel too bad. If you were listening in on the topic of eggplant, I think that's more on you. Yeah. Fax, gotta thank you once again. Oh, no worries, no worries. I'm glad it worked out. If I remember right, you made yours in an air fryer, right, Paul? I find that fascinating. Like, did you know that air fryers are pretty much just convection ovens? They have very dry convection cells, and that's how they work. Yeah. So, I guess it makes sense, but I didn't know that it would work, right? Like, sometimes you can predict that, yeah, maybe that'll work, maybe it'll go okay, but sometimes you get unexpected results, and, you really don't know why. Anything could happen in a situation like that. Maybe the dry currents would cause a skin to form on the cookies, and they wouldn't get as expanded. But I think the fact that we gelatinized the starches with the hot water in the cookie recipe that I gave you is probably preventing that from happening. Yeah, like, that's a tip. If you want to add more moisture to a dough, but still make it manageable, all you gotta do is gelatinize the starches, add hot water, and microwave a portion of, okay, take a portion of the flour and a portion of the water, and mix them together very well, so there are no clumps. Then you microwave that for about 30 to 40 seconds. You'll end up with a big blob of clear starch most of the time if you do it right. And that's a lot easier to work with than a sticky dough. Yeah. Came out surprisingly good. They looked surprisingly good, Paul. They really did. I'm not surprised if you enjoyed them. I know the recipe is very tasty, but I am surprised the convection oven worked just as well, if not maybe better. Yeah, like, they kind of look deep fried, as expected of an air fryer. Fascinating results, though. I'd like to see if they could be cooked other ways. Like, I've always wondered if you could make cookies in a toaster. Like, I don't mean like one of the standard toasters. There are toasters with like egg attachments. I always wondered if you could bake a cookie on one of those. Gonna make it a yearly tradition? I'm really happy if you do. Like, never stop. Never stop baking if you enjoy it. That is great advice. I stopped baking for a while because I just couldn't do it. There was no way for me to bake. I didn't have access to an oven. And that was very sad, because baking used to be a very large part of my life. Even to this day, since then, I bake something every day. At least one thing I bake every day. I gotta really aerate that coffee. So, at the end of my day, I have sourdough discard, right? Like, I have a sourdough culture that I started probably, I don't know, 2018-ish, somewhere around there. And it's been alive ever since. That's very, very sad. Very tragic, look at that. But I don't like throwing out the discard, you know? Like, I always try to find uses for it. And I figured out, not too long ago, maybe a year or two. Oh god. Oh god, a year or two is not that long ago. Oh, time. Where does the time go? Gonna have an existential crisis here. That's another thing I could talk about, right? Time. Briefly gonna put that on pause and talk about time. Like, I have a personal theory about time in human standards, right? Like, when you're young, a year seems like a long time, doesn't it? Like, whenever I think about my school years, a year seemed so long because I wanted to get through the school year and get to summer and start having fun again, right? No homework, I could sleep whenever I wanted, could play my online MMORPGs, all I wanted, right? I could be on them for hours and hours and hours. Or I could go outside, because I was rural, and yeah, we went outside a lot. I know, gross. Gross, he touched grass as a kid. Ew. Ew. Look at him. Grass toucher. But a year seemed like a long time, because we had to get through it in order to have that fun, right? But if you think about it, that seems so long because we were probably, what? 10 years, maybe 16 years old? Somewhere between that, probably, would be the time when I was thinking these things. So, 1 out of 16 would be the fraction. Or 1 out of 17, I guess. That's the proportion of your life. So a year, of course, would seem longer than, say, now when it's 1 over... uh, well, however old you are. It becomes a much smaller fraction of the total time you spent on this earth, and it seems much quicker in comparison, I think. Seems like the older you get, the faster time flies. Yes, yes. Oh, you too? You too. Oh. I'm sorry you caught the self-black there. But I do think that's exactly what happens. The older you get, the smaller the proportion of time relative to your total time on Earth becomes. So a week, for example, flies by. Because how many weeks have you lived by this point in your life? I couldn't tell you how many weeks I've lived. But every day, I keep thinking to myself, man, I wish there were more time. I wish I had more days. Or I wish there were more hours in my day. Or I wish there were more days in this week. Usually I'm wishing for weekends. Yeah, not so much more weekdays. That would be awful, right? You don't want more weekdays. But if you had more weekend, that'd be just fine by me. Not that it matters to me. I work on weekends, right? Like, holidays don't exist for me unless I take them off myself. That's just the nature of my job. But it's the same for weekends. Like if I didn't have to stream today, I wouldn't even know that today is technically Monday now where I live. Yeah. It would just be another day of the week for me. Another work day. But I don't mind that, really. Like, that there's something to be said about... this is an awful shot. I think we're gonna have to go for that. There's something to be said about the consistency of it. Like, I know I talked a lot about, the elderly. and, the retired today. But we're gonna add a little bit more about the retired, yeah? I've seen a lot of people, because the area I currently live, there are a lot of older people here. Yeah. It's not a very conducive place for younger generations. The jobs just aren't here for the most part. So it's a bunch of retired people, and close to retiring people. Yeah. And unfortunately, I have seen people who are perfectly healthy into their 60s and 70s just decline rapidly whenever they retired. Like, it takes maybe a year or two, but they start getting listless, they start having more accidents, like their minds start losing some of the sharpness too. That's always the saddest part, right? It's not so much the loss in mobility that worries me, it's the loss of faculties. I don't really have too many to lose, so if that ever happens to me, it's gonna be a bad time, yeah? But yeah, I really do think that jobs keep you sharp, keep you healthy, keep you more mobile, more cognitively engaged. And as much as I hate to say it, I think retiring is probably a quick way of losing some of those things in your later years. So maybe just never retire, right? Like, I don't think a lot of people in my generation will have to worry about that. We won't have the choice to not, or to retire or not, right? We're just gonna be working forever. That's fine. My generation, you know? And the younger generations especially. Like, I see that getting worse and worse the younger the generation gets. As you can tell, Hyde is not an optimist here, but that's fine. It's probably fine, right? Like, life will find a way, and if it doesn't, the planet will. The planet will outlive us all, I'm sure of it. But, yeah. Retirement does seem to cause declines in health pretty rapidly. It's a surprising, phenomenon, I think, because you wouldn't expect it. You'd expect that once people no longer have the stresses of their job, their career, their daily life, the grind, you would think that they would be happier, healthier. And some are. Like, it's not all one or the other. It depends on what your hobbies are, I think. Like, if you keep active hobbies and you retire, like if you start a garden and you retire, I think you can still retain your mobility, right? Yeah. Not just mobility, but motility as well. Because mobility is directly correlated to motility. But it really is a shame. I have seen that all too commonly. Yeah. Time really does fly, though, doesn't it? I was just thinking that the other day. I am nearing, what, 9 months as a PNGtuber? And I don't mean to brag, but I think I started off as garbage, and I have gotten a lot better since then, right? Like, when I first started, if you've seen my first stream, and that was probably the first time I ever used my voice on this channel, not only was the quality awful, the model was different too. My voice was just absolutely awful. I absolutely hate that voice. It's so, feral. Because I was not talking to people much at that point. Yeah. It's kinda sad, in fact. I didn't know how bad that I had gotten with my voice until I started trying to speak more coherently. And I'm still working on it. Like, I have vocal exercises every day, and I do them every day. Sometimes, sometimes they're singing exercises. Like, singing is a great way to practice enunciation. Yeah. If you want to practice enunciation, what is it? The Major General song. You know the one I'm talking about? Yeah, the Major General song from that pirate musical. Can't remember the name of it. But that song will help you enunciate a lot more clearly. I highly recommend it. And the BFE also helped me because I had to practice scripted lines. So I had to really focus on how I was saying what I was saying, right? You improved so much. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry that I have gotten rid of that. Like, I guess some people might have liked it more. But having had speech therapy for so long in my life, and it was really long, like longer than it should have been long, I have been very concerned about the clarity of my speech, my enunciation. Like, I probably think about it more often than most people should. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's not an anxiety. I don't feel anxious about it. I don't feel like it's... I'm not sad or anything, okay? Like, I don't worry about it. I just try to recognize it. Yeah, it's one of those kind of things. Like the current voice, too. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. The current voice is much more close. Yeah, much closer to how I used to sound back when I was still talking to people all the time. Yeah. After speech therapy, in classes, in college. It was really after college that I really let it go again. And I had to come back and really work on it. Hammer out those issues. And I am pretty happy with the results so far. There is still more work to be done. I can always enunciate more clearly, or drop some of the ands, kind of things, right? The filler. I think the giggle probably has to go eventually too, but I quite like it, especially for Jekyll, so maybe I won't drop it. Some of these things, though, you know, I think they're fine. I really do. It's just me being a perfectionist when it comes to not being happy with something that I'm doing. Most people probably don't even think about these things. They certainly wouldn't think about them coming from someone else. So I recognize that these aren't really anxieties. Well, okay. Like, you can call them anxieties because I do feel a need to fix them. But they're not anxieties in the sense that I'm anxious about them. It's not like I think anyone's judging me for my voice or any of the strangeness in it. Twofer. Yeah, we got 2 for 1 there. It's mostly just me that I'm concerned about. I don't like some of the things in my voice, and I am trying to fix them. It can be done. It really can be. You just have to work at it. And coming up at 9 months, I think I'm seeing results. I'm happy, you know? Like, I didn't think that this was going to be, this was going to be one of the things that I'd need to work on. Like, I didn't even know. I was so far gone that I didn't even know that I needed to work on my voice. So I'm very happy that I started this whole streaming and content creation thing. Yeah. Without it, I don't know where I'd be. Probably more feral. Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably be out digging in trash cans, trying to find a meal or something. Not because I needed to be digging in trash cans to find a meal, but because I had devolved into a raccoon. Yeah. You know raccoons with their grimy little hands? They're really grimy. They like to touch everything, raccoons. I really don't like raccoons. They always get in my trash cans. So cool that it's visible in your channel over the last several months. Thank you. I'd like to think that the effort is worth it, and is having results. I don't really need external validation, but I do appreciate that you can recognize it. Because I do feel the same. That you can really see the changes in the way I speak. Especially with syllabants. Sibilants. Synonyms. Sibilants. The S sounds, right? Like when I first started, that was one of the biggest problems I had. The trailing S's. And I still kind of have a sibilance problem, but I think I've clipped it a lot better than I used to be able to. And that's unfortunate for anyone who might have liked that, but I'm very happy that I have improved once again, because that kind of S sound was one of the big problems I had as a kid with my speech impediment. That's part of why I had to go to speech therapy for so many years. Yeah. Just one of those things that I'm very happy about. Yeah. I think we're about close to the end here. I think the next time I die, we're gonna call it a night. But in the meantime, dark eyes, grimy hands from... Yeah, Hyde is a raccoon. You know, it's interesting. If you've ever read Where the Red Fern Grows, you'll remember that one of the first pelts that the young man ever got were raccoon pelts. And he got the first raccoon pelt to train his dogs. Oh, spoilers for Where the Red Fern Grows. Mute yourself. Or, yeah, mute me. If you don't want spoilers for this old American book. Yeah. So, in Where the Red Fern Grows, there's a boy who buys some bloodhounds, and he needs to train them in order to track down hunting prey, and he needs a raccoon pelt. In order to get his first raccoon pelt, he creates a trap using a shiny metal piece and a hole that was too small to fit the shiny metal piece out of. Yeah, when the raccoon had its grimy little hands on it. This works because raccoons do in fact like shiny things. They will try and hoard them. They also like garbage, because they try and eat my garbage all the time. Yeah, raccoon maxing, yes. That is the look. Like I said, I'm really big fan of the raccoon-eyed look of Tom Savini, especially with zombies. So it's no surprise that although I do not like raccoons, I do like the way they look, yeah. I know a lot of people call them robber masks, but it's true, like they raid my garbage all the time. I've also heard trash panda before. I don't know. I find them kind of gross, because their hands really do touch literally everything. They have this real need to stick their hands in the grossest things they can find. Sometimes the shiniest things they can find as well. Yeah. Like, I don't know what it is. I think there is some kind of element of they need the tactile sensation of putting their hands inside of garbage. That's what it seems like to me, at least. I have seen them sticking their hands in rotten banana peels and just smushing them. Like, why? Why are you doing that? I don't know. Anyway, I had a lot of fun. Thank you all for showing up. I'm gonna save this real quick, so I know what not to say next time. I had a lot of fun. It was nice to see some old faces again, and some new faces as well. Like I always say, you never have to watch my streams. You never have to watch my VODs. I know I stream in strange times. And I do recognize that, you know, maybe you want to watch someone else. Maybe your Oshi is streaming at the same hour I am. That's perfectly fine, you know? You do not have to watch my streams. But I appreciate you for showing up at all. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Thank you all. Thanks for the stream. I'm glad you enjoy the streams, Rora. I love you all, but it's time for me to go. See you all next time. Hyde out.